Right now, in this exact moment, there is a woman in your world who knows you better than you think. She knows your history, she knows your exact age, and she has seen your patterns play out over time. She's seen you at your best, but more importantly, she has seen you at your worst. She is fully aware of your flaws, your daily reality, and the less than perfect circumstances of your life. Yet, despite knowing all of this, she has developed a deep, quiet, and undeniable emotional attachment to you. The most unsettling part of this entire reality is that you have probably overlooked her completely, missing the subtle signs of her presence because she isn't making a scene or demanding the spotlight. Most men go through life completely blinded by a false script about how attraction works. You've been conditioned by society, media, and peer pressure to believe that a woman's interest is a superficial equation based strictly on your youth, your physical looks, your financial status, or flawless romantic timing. You are taught to think that if you don't fit into this perfect, polished box, you are invisible. But real, lasting emotional attachment operates on a completely different wavelength that defies standard logic. It doesn't care about a superficial checklist. While you are busy worrying about what you lack, this woman has already bypassed all of those surface level metrics to connect with something much deeper inside you. She didn't fall for a carefully curated, heavily filtered fantasy version of who you are, nor is she holding on to some unrealistic expectation of your potential. Instead, she looked at your raw reality, including the hesitation in your voice when you are unsure, the way you withdraw when things get tough, and the quiet insecurities you think you hide so well from the rest of the world. She saw your age, your struggles, and your everyday imperfections, and instead of taking a step back or walking away like so many others have done, she made a conscious internal choice to stay emotionally close to you. This type of consistent emotional closeness is never an accident because women do not invest their precious energy, time, and focus into a man without a powerful underlying reason. She has made herself a steady, comforting anchor in your life, quietly accepting the reality of who you are today rather than waiting for some perfect version of you tomorrow. You are looking for a grand, loud sign of attraction, completely missing the fact that the most genuine bond you currently have is right in front of you, wrapped in absolute silence and unconditional acceptance. You completely missed her, and the reason why is simple. She didn't create chaos, throw tantrums, or demand your attention. She didn't play the exhausting psychological games that force you to chase her, and she never weaponized her absence just to see if you would run after her. In a world full of people shouting for your focus, she did the exact opposite. She existed quietly and peacefully in your universe, content to occupy a space right next to you, without ever making demands. While other people were busy trying to control you or change you, she was doing something far rarer. She was observing you, learning your rhythms, and genuinely understanding the person you are when the rest of the world isn't looking. The harsh truth is that most men are completely blind to this level of depth because they have been brainwashed by modern dating culture. You have been conditioned to look for high intensity drama, toxic unpredictability, and emotional roller coasters, completely mistaking that anxiety inducing chaos for actual romantic chemistry. You've been taught to think that if a relationship doesn't give you butterflies born out of stress, or if a woman isn't making you jump through hoops to prove your worth, then the connection must not be exciting. Because of this flawed logic, you completely ignored the most stable force in your life. You looked right past her calm, consistent energy, mislabeling it as nothing more than casual friendliness or a convenient, comfortable friendship. You convinced yourself that she was just being nice, or that her steady presence was simply a background feature of your daily routine. But you need to wake up and understand how women actually operate. A woman does not invest her valuable emotional energy, her attention, and her constant presence over a long period of time without a serious, deeply rooted reason. Women are highly intentional with their emotional real estate. They do not show up consistently for a man, day after day, just to pass the time or be polite. Every text she sent, every time she listened to you vent, and every moment she stayed by your side when things got quiet was an act of deliberate emotional investment. You were looking for a lightning bolt of dramatic excitement, completely missing the steady, powerful fire that she was keeping alive right under your nose. Her feelings for you did not grow from the kind of cheap, superficial excitement that drives most modern relationships. They didn't come from the flashy, temporary thrills of fancy dates, curated social media moments, or the frantic rush of a new infatuation. Instead, her attachment grew from something infinitely more powerful and enduring: deep, authentic familiarity. Cheap excitement is like a wildfire. It burns incredibly bright, grabs all of your attention, but ultimately burns itself out just as quickly as it started, leaving behind nothing but ashes. Familiarity, however, is a completely different force. It builds slowly, quietly, and almost invisibly in the background of your life. It accumulates through the regular, everyday moments you completely take for granted, the comfortable shared silences where neither of you felt the pressure to perform, the random text messages, and the raw, unscripted conversations where you allowed yourself to speak without a filter. Over time, these small, seemingly insignificant interactions layered on top of one another until they formed an emotional bond so solid that it has become completely irreplaceable. Because she spent so much time quietly existing in your world, she began to understand you on a level that few people ever do. She started predicting your habits and reading your unexpressed thoughts before you even realized you were giving off signals. She learned the exact rhythm of your personality. She knows the precise moments when the weight of your life becomes too heavy and you feel the urge to pull back, isolate, or withdraw into yourself. She knows exactly what it means when you suddenly go quiet in the middle of a conversation. And instead of getting frustrated, taking your distance personally, or punishing you with her own silence, she met those difficult moments with a profound, unshakable patience. You might have looked at her calmness during those times and assumed she just didn't care that much, or that she was passive about the relationship. But you need to realize that her patience was never a sign of weakness, compliance, or a lack of options. It was a deliberate, high stakes emotional investment in your character. By staying steady while you were pulling away, she was actively protecting the connection she felt toward you. She chose to take on the heavy, uncomfortable burden of emotional risk. She willingly accepted the agonizing anxiety of uncertainty, choosing to stay in limbo rather than forcing a dramatic, high pressure romantic confession that might scare you off. In her mind, the absolute worst case scenario was losing her place in your life entirely. She knew that the moment she put her feelings into words, she would shift the dynamic, break the comfort zone, and potentially force you to make a choice you weren't ready to make. So, to prevent that from happening, she made the conscious sacrifice to keep her feelings quiet. She chose the pain of keeping her love unspoken just to ensure she could keep consistent, uninterrupted access to you, proving that her loyalty to your presence mattered far more than her own need for immediate gratification. Do not make the mistake of assuming she is waiting around for you because she has nowhere else to go or because she lacks other options. She is an attractive, capable woman who could easily seek out validation, attention, and romance from other men if she chose to. She isn't stuck and she isn't desperate. She is actively choosing to wait because somewhere along the line, you became her ultimate reference point for what a man should be. Even if she goes out into the world, meets new people, and interacts with other men who try to pursue her, none of them can seem to break through her defenses. Why? Because you are the invisible blueprint. You are the standard she compares every single other person to. And compared to the raw, genuine connection she feels with you, everyone else just feels like superficial noise. Over time, she has deeply analyzed and mentally mapped the inner workings of your personality. She knows your true character, your morals, and the way you handle yourself when nobody is watching. She has looked at your steady, grounded presence, the calm energy you bring into a room, the maturity in your voice, and the lack of childish pretense. And she has decided that this exact energy is what she craves above all else. In a chaotic world where everyone is putting on an act and chasing clout, your authenticity is her sanctuary. She doesn't want the flashy, unpredictable highs of someone new. She wants the solid, unshakable foundation that you provide simply by existing. While you have been moving blindly through your daily routine, completely taking her for granted and assuming her presence was just a simple, convenient part of your life, she has been operating on a completely different emotional frequency. In the quiet theater of her mind, she has built a massive internal story, a narrative entirely anchored by the specific moments when you were being completely, unapologetically yourself. She remembers the exact way you laughed when you weren't trying to be cool, the raw honesty in your voice when you spoke about your struggles, and the quiet kindness you showed when you thought no one was paying attention. Those unscripted moments became her emotional anchors. She returns to them every single time she feels a wave of doubt, using your past genuineness to justify her current loyalty, completely transforming your everyday interactions into a profound, unbreakable bond that keeps her tied to your side. You need to understand that her current silence is not a sign of confusion, hesitation, or her being unsure about how she feels. She isn't mixed up, and she isn't trying to figure out if she likes you. Her silence is actually a display of intense, disciplined, and strict emotional restraint. Right now, beneath that calm surface, she is fighting a massive internal battle, constantly balancing two incredibly powerful and opposing forces inside her heart. On one hand, she has an overwhelming desire to tear down the walls, pull you closer, and connect with you on a much deeper, more intimate level. On the other hand, she has a fierce, hardwired survival instinct telling her to protect her own heart. She is terrified of overinvesting her time, love, and energy into a man who seems completely blind to her value, or worse, someone who might end up taking her for granted and breaking her spirit. This intense internal war is the exact reason why her behavior might feel completely baffling to you sometimes. It is why her energy can feel incredibly warm, inviting, and close one day, and then suddenly feel slightly distant, detached, and completely out of reach the next. When she feels safe, she leans in and lets her warmth show. But the moment she realizes she is exposing too much of her heart without getting anything in return, she immediately panics and pulls back just enough to safeguard her emotions. She isn't playing mind games, she isn't trying to manipulate you, and she isn't trying to make you chase her. She is simply managing high stakes emotional risk. She is treating her heart like a valuable asset, refusing to give away the keys to a house that you haven't even bothered to knock on yet. The truth is, she already understands you infinitely better than you think she does. She has studied your body language, she knows your moods, and she can read the unsaid thoughts behind your eyes. She knows your flaws and your strengths, and she has already accepted all of it. She has done all the heavy lifting, all the waiting, and all the observing. She is completely prepared to stand by you, but she is stuck in limbo, waiting for the one crucial thing that you have consistently failed to give her: a single, definitive, unmistakable signal. She doesn't need a massive, cinematic declaration of love, and she doesn't need you to be perfect. She just needs you to look her in the eyes and show a clear sign that you actually see her, that you value her consistency, and that her deep emotional investment is finally being recognized and reciprocated. Until you give her that green light, she will keep her guard up, trapped in this agonizing, controlled tension, refusing to take another step forward alone. When you boil everything down to the absolute truth, you have to realize that real human connection is never defined by superficial metrics like your status, your bank account, your looks, or even having the perfect timing. True, unbreakable emotional bonds are defined by one simple, powerful concept: mutual recognition. It is about two people finally dropping their armor and truly seeing each other for exactly who they are in a world full of people pretending to be something else. The absolute reality of life is that the woman who feels the deepest, most profound bond with you is rarely going to be the loudest person in the room. She is not the one causing scenes, demanding your constant validation, or putting on a massive show to grab your attention. Instead, she is the one who sits quietly in your corner, listening to you more than she speaks, and actively paying attention to the real you. She is the one who effortlessly remembers the tiny, obscure details about your life, your childhood, or your preferences. Details that you forgot you even shared, but that she cherished because they came from you. She is the steady anchor who refuses to disappear, pack up her bags, or match your negative energy, even when you become distant, stressed out, or try to push the rest of the world away. You need to take a hard, honest look at your life right now and pay close attention to the people who have remained completely consistent in your world without ever demanding a single thing in return. We live in a transactional society where almost everyone enters your life looking for what they can take from you, what you can provide for them, or how you can elevate their status. When you find someone who breaks that mold entirely, someone who pours their time, energy, and silent loyalty into you without attaching a price tag or an ultimatum to it, you are looking at something incredibly rare. You cannot afford to keep moving blindly through your days, assuming that her loyalty is just a coincidence or a random byproduct of your routine. Not everyone who stays by your side when things get boring or difficult is doing it by accident. People don't just stick around through the silence, the awkward phases, and the unpolished realities of life for no reason. The strongest, most life altering emotions are almost never the ones making the most noise. They are the ones waiting patiently, quietly, and entirely exposed right in front of your face, just hoping that you will finally wake up, open your eyes, and notice them before it's too late.